Welcome to Season 3 of the Lead with Coffee podcast. It's been a crazy year of managing a pandemic, running our company, and our life with 3 teenage boys. Join us as we continue the journey into how you can change the culture in your business and your home through simple leadership practices. Grab a cup of coffee and get ready to join into today's conversation. Hey, welcome back to Lead with Coffee. Today we are excited to be sitting here with our friend and real estate agent, Dawn. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's going to be a fun time together because I know you guys want to know more about what the heck is going on in real estate. And we had the pleasure of working with Dawn for a couple of years. We've talked about it on previous ones from when we were starting in the process of, do we renovate? Do we rent? Do we buy? What do we do to get what we need? And so it's been a long journey, but first, you should know that Dawn and I have known each other almost 40 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a
Since the 80s.
Way too long. So we talk about this sweet little street in Lakeside that our parents both owned homes on. We grew up together. We went to school together, and our lives just intertwined back over the past 10 to 15 years. Always, wherever I was working, Dawn would be somewhere in the vicinity, right? We would just run into each other.
Yeah, always. We just always somehow stayed connected.
Yeah. And so I think that it was just so perfect for us to have someone who knew and understood our life as we were selling our home, because it was a family home and it took a lot of convincing on both sides and Dawn's gentle nudges that it was time to look. And now we couldn't imagine not being in our new home.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember over the last couple of years of you just forwarding me emails, hey, look at this one. I'm like, yeah, okay, it's cool. But, just not being in the mindset that we were ready to do anything.
Yeah, so.
And that changed this year.
But I did bring Dawn to the house a couple of years ago and walked her through, and we were starting renovations at that point, right?
You're right. Yeah. And I find for a lot of people, it's a process. Like it sometimes takes a few years, and sometimes people are like, oh gosh, I feel bad. I think we wasted your time. And it's like, no, this is what happens for a lot of people. Most people don't just wake up one day and say, we're moving. They usually have, steps that they have to go through, and they have to really decide where they want to live and what that looks like for them. Yeah. So I was not surprised that it took some time for you guys to get to that point.
Did you think we would do it?
I did.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, I figured that with the kids in the house and them only getting bigger, at some point you were just busting at the seams and you were going to have to find something bigger.
Can we pause on that one real quick?
I know. I was just going to pause and you go first.
So yesterday, standing in the kitchen, and Jacob walks up to me and Sarah's like, whoa, hold on, stand back to back. Jacob at age 15 and 3 months is officially taller than me now.
He grows like 2 inches every night.
It's nuts.
I don't know what's going on with this kid. But yeah, he opened the fridge and it was like, you're as tall as the fridge now.
Wow.
I know. You know this. You have a boy.
Yes.
You
all of a sudden
boys.
they are just tall and they're men. And you're like, where did this man come from?
Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll roll into this crazy world of real estate. How's life? Tell us about your family. And then how'd you get into real estate?
So, family, I've got 5 kids. So my husband, Brian, who you all know, we all went to school together. He came to me with 3 girls, and I had a son, and we had a son together. And so we had to go through meshing our family and leaving my townhouse and moving into, the house that would work for all of us. So I can feel your pain there.
Yes.
And so I was working at Vaughn's at the time. I had come up through the management programs there, and I was a store manager. And I decided at some point that I was not going to spend another 30 years in the grocery business, and that I had to do something where I could transfer my skill and ability to another job and continue to be a breadwinner for our family. So real estate had always intrigued me, and that was just like the perfect job for me to transition to quite easily. And I was fortunate. I did well, sold 25 homes my first year. I connected with a great team, so I went that route. And Yeah, and then people like you I've been very blessed with so many people in my life. I laugh because I just listed another house yesterday with somebody that we went to high school with, and it's like, who knew that? Junior high and high school would bring all my clients.
I know.
But that's just relationships, right? And
Yeah.
having those relationships and nurturing them through the years, and people know you and they trust you, and to me, that's the best way to build a business.
Yeah, I think that has been your key to success, is that you're not out just seeking any random person. It is always being available for those of us that know you do this, have questions, because you know that investment of time 1 to 2 years before is going to pay off later. And not all of us harass her every day for 2 years. It's like we kind of, we'll touch base. You'll start sending me homes and emails, and that's a great tactic. Because then I forward it to David, like, check out this one.
Yeah.
But I like that, because the relationships I think that you built go so much further than just door knocking. But Dawn's pretty humble. So tell us, you've been pretty highly ranked up. Tell us a little bit about your actual real estate business and who you work with.
So I work with a Coldwell Banker, and I left the team that I was on about 3 years ago now. And so I've been on my own, and that in itself was yet another change in my life, and taking scary steps. And I did it, and I've got a great team around me now that I've built up, and it just made it a lot easier, I guess, on family and everything, just to have a stable business. And I've been fortunate. I've been in the top 10 in my company since I left the team and been on my own. So that's been good.
And you sold how many homes already this year?
This year I am at 26.
Wow.
It's the end of June, people.
It is.
26 homes in 6 months. This isn't normal. I mean, the other day I heard something like a normal real estate agent sells 10 to 15 a year.
Correct.
Right? So what is going on in real estate right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, the real estate market has been appreciating year over year for several years now. I mean, since I got in the business in 2014, it's just continued to go year over year. But the last, I would say, 2 years has just been insane as far as the percent of appreciation. And we just have a lack of inventory. We have low interest rates right now, which are helping people with the affordability. But then on the other side, there's really no homes out there to buy, and we're so far behind as far as new construction goes that we're not able to, supplement the real estate market with those homes. So it's been just a crazy couple of years, and fortunately, I've been able to still help people, on both the buy and the sell side. I have a pretty good balance there. So I think it really just comes down to working with a real estate agent that's going to have some strategies in place to help you get from, it's a dream, we've thought about this, to actually reality of moving into your new home. And when you're like you guys trying to sell and buy a home at the same time, like that really takes some strategy, right?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And gosh, I mean, for what we went through, that's what we did times 26.
Right.
All together. And I just remember the amount of, we were on a group text together, we still are, and how responsive you were times 26. Granted, they're not all at once, but it's only been 6 months. So just the constant communication, there is no downtime, right? Right.
Yeah, it does take a lot. And there's so many moving parts when you're going through the real estate process, just so many things that happen. And you guys are, so on top of things. So it's like trying to stay one step ahead.
A's over here.
Yes, 2 type A's here. So trying to stay one step ahead, and, always wanting people to feel comfortable with, what's coming next and how to navigate that, and really trying to keep the fear from coming up, that can happen so easily for people. So always just trying to keep that in my mind as we go through it.
Yeah. I think this is where you get to be brutally honest, and we're okay with feedback. We talk about it all the time, so you get to give it to us now. It felt like we thought we knew what we were getting into, and then once we got into it, it was like, Dawn, what the heck is going on here? So talk about what it was like to work with us from when we were starting in like the first home that we were ready to put an offer on that you kind of knew was not the home for us. And Dawn would keep saying, you're going to know the minute it's your home. And we were like, this is our home, Dawn. This is perfect. It's far away from everyone and everything. It was not perfect.
No.
And then like random cul-de-sacs we decided to go see to get to the perfect home. Just what was that like?
So, I mean, I go through it all the time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, even though you guys felt like it was probably unique,
Yeah.
but yet that is part of the process. And when you take a buyer from, hey, we think we want this, to what they actually end up with, like I see things because I'm on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And while you guys each gave me like your list of what the must-haves were, I somehow just always know like in my heart that the right home's going to come up and that there's a certain feeling that you get when that happens.
Yeah.
And I kept telling you that.
Yes.
And so even though buyers sometimes try to like look at a house and be like, we can make this work. Like this has enough of what we want. Like it's going to be okay. We're going to make these compromises. When you guys looked at that one that was out in the middle of nowhere on a dead end road,
fire hazard.
Yes. It was like, no, this isn't going to work for your teenage children. You don't want them driving here. So, and I was honest with you and I said, that is a concern of mine, So I think that it just comes down to like, just you guys have to trust, right? Like you guys put faith that it was going to happen. And even though you guys got probably frustrated here and there when, you make an offer and it doesn't happen, and we had the house right down the street from you that you were like, I didn't think I was going to move a block away from my current home.
No.
But that didn't come together for a reason. And that was because we had a house out there that was waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to pause on that because the perspective you gave is great for leadership, whereas we think we know what we're doing and you have someone else. And this is why it's great to have mentors and why it's great to mentor people, because you bring someone from the outside that has just a different perspective, that sees it at a higher level possibly than you do. And it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
We think that we're in it every day and we know exactly what to do until you get that outside source that has maybe seen a few things before. And in your case, real estate, they can come in and calm things down a little bit and just give us a different perspective on things. And so I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's funny thinking of it that way, right? As a real estate mentor, like.
Yeah,
Kind of
it's
cool.
all leadership. I mean,
It
I
is.
think when you back out of it, you are running an organization. You maybe have a team of 4 or 5. And how many people are on your team?
So I've got 3.
3. So you're still running it and you lead people through change. I mean, that is what you're doing. You are hearing what they want. You're figuring out how to get them from where they are to where they want to go. And that is leading the emotion, the actual physical move, and everything that falls in between. And that in between is exhausting sometimes on the real estate side. But I think Dawn was tricky because we are always looking for information and we read people as leaders all the time, and Dawn is a poker face, and so I'm like you were my friend, you were supposed to give me honest advice, and she says nothing, and she's waiting to see my reaction, but I want to see her reaction. And the first couple of homes, it was like Dawn was just like straight face, like there's the bathroom, there's the kitchen, and I was like, what? Like nothing, no, right? I would come home and be like, she gave me nothing. I don't even know if she likes the house. Like somehow your validation was very important to me as a buyer.
Yes, but what happened when we actually walked into the house?
That video is great, actually.
They made an offer before they
made
even
an
told
offer.
me.
And Dawn's like, ooh, this is good. I'm like, ooh, this is good. And Dylan's over here running like, this is the best house ever.
I remember you were videoing it for David, and I was actually like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is perfect for you. Look at this master bath. And you were like, oh my gosh, Dawn's even excited.
No, we're in the mirror, like dancing in the video quietly. So the owner did not know we would love the home to charge us more. But,
Right.
But it was so funny because I got it then. But when you're going through it, you're like, I don't know. She's just not giving me any feedback. And as a leader, like it's torture because you just want like someone to validate that you like it and I like it. And you see homes every day. So like, is this a good home or not a good home? And, for us, it was like, it's got an extra bedroom and an extra bathroom. Can it work? Right.
Yeah. But that's the wisdom, because you don't want to make the decision before anybody else.
I would never want to like lead someone,
Right.
to a house that's not going to be just right for them. And
Yeah.
sadly, there are people out there that will just sell you a home just to, collect that paycheck. And
Yeah.
it's so much more than that. I mean, it's a home. Like that's where life happens,
Yeah.
everything happens for you. So it's
Yeah.
important.
It is important. And it's one of the biggest changes you're ever going to make in your life, right?
It is.
So the irony is that Dawn was in her home, not too far from our old home. And we're finally in this commitment process to get our home on the market, and maybe we'll find this home and maybe not. We got the pictures done. We told you the whole story about how we came to find our current home and put an offer in without David even there. And it was Dawn and Dylan and I and the threesome, just, and how they politely declined
Yeah.
so they could get a lot more. But we won, and that was fun. But that took a lot of your knowledge of the industry to know that our house was going to keep going higher. So talk about how people are pricing homes, because I think people want to understand why everything is going 50 to 100,000 over ask. Is this a game, or is this just the market driving it?
So when you look at where we are with appreciation, you have to think about that when we are pricing homes, we're looking at the recent sales in the area, and we're looking at the pending sales. So I would say, like, for appraisal purposes, they have to have the solds 90 days back. For pending, I would say, like, that's where the fish are biting. So we're looking at how we're going to price your home, and we're having to base it on those two things. But we don't know on those pending properties what they're going to close at. So we kind of have to, in a way, play it safe when we price a home. And you always want to price a home just a little bit below market value so you can drive the buyers into your home, which we did.
We did.
We had quite a few showings in a matter of a couple days,
Yeah.
but that's how we generated 10 offers on your home.
Yeah.
So, and I always say, it's not up to you as a seller what your home is going to sell for. It's up to the buyers. The buyers are the ones who determine the price or the value of your home. And when those offers came in and they were all, above your list price, we had done our job. And it was such a beautiful thing that difference in price was, what allowed you to be able to be more competitive on your purchase and get yourself into that next home. So there again, like, I just always look at it and go, okay, this is God working here. Like, this is way bigger than us. Like, we don't have control of these things, right? Like, this is just not in our control, but we trusted that home had to be yours. Like, I just knew it. And, I was up there visiting in Idaho over spring break, and we're on the phone together, and I could feel that you guys were like, oh man, this is intense. Like, are we going to be okay, Dawn? Are we all right? And it's like, we just have to go through this. And And we did. And it's like such a beautiful thing when you get out to that other side of it. And it's like, oh my goodness, you guys got your offer accepted. You're ready to move forward on the sale of your current home. And this all came together perfectly.
Yeah. And adding to that, there is another key player that was on the side that was helpful that we had a relationship with, which is Paige from Granite Mortgage. I mean, the fact that we've known him for 10 years and you work with him all the time to deal with the mortgage on the sale and the purchase made a huge difference for this to be smooth, because having sold our home and seeing how that's coming on the other side with the offers coming in and things falling through, if you don't have that mortgage person in line and ready to go, you're in trouble. You could fall in love with the perfect home, but if you haven't spent the time and got that handled, which Sarah spent hours and hours
Poor Paige.
getting that dialed in, you're not ready. You're not
right.
ready.
You're right. And it's key. And a lot of times people want to, skip those first few steps, and they're like, no, we just want to get in and look at homes. And it's like, that's the, I guess, I don't know, fun part maybe, but it's like, you got to do the work up front if you want to be successful. And you guys followed direction very well. Good job. And it made it easier for you.
Like a checklist, Dawn.
Yes.
Well, and I think that's what was good is you knew we were serious once we really got Paige on board, because that's about when I started texting you like, so I think we're ready. I've got it all lined up. Here's what I can afford. And you were like, oh, okay. We've gone from maybe we're renovating to she's serious and we're moving. But I think that's a good point, David, because we talk about relationships. Just now we talked about relationships. And for us, you're laying all of your personal life on the table when you buy a home.
Yeah.
The person that you work with, whether your real estate agent or your mortgage broker, is going to know every detail about everything. Every flaw you have in your finances, every win you've had in your finances, and everything in between. And it's not always pretty. So you have to find people that you trust, that won't judge you, or that can just walk with you through whatever season you're in, whether you're right sizing like we were and needing more space, or, finding that you're ready to go to get the beach house, this little cute condo, which that's next. We'll someday go from the
Yes.
mountain to the beach.
Yes.
But I think that was so critical for us to have two people on our team that we really trusted, that knew each other, and for us even had the same faith and passion for life and business, because all of us own businesses essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So you understood our kind of unique situation of how does your business impact your purchase. And there's so many different layers when you own any kind of business and you're trying to do something personally. You have 10 more documents every day to sign
Yes,
and
you
provide,
do.
right? It's like
You
this
do.
endless list. But
Yeah, no, I think that always is a key to people's success, as well as working with a team that can come together and lead you through that process. But it's multiple components,
Mhm.
but it does really help when you have a realtor that also has a relationship with, a lender, and then they can help, you as a buyer. And sometimes, I was very lucky with you guys that you guys already had Paige in your life. So
Right.
it's just funny how that whole connection happens.
yeah.
And I just can't say enough as far as when you want to get into this process, you have to make sure that you have good people with a great track record behind you who have the same goal in mind that you have.
Yeah. I think the other thing we talked about during one of our home conversations on the previous podcast was trust your real estate agent to do their job. You're hiring them for a reason. So to micromanage you would not have been successful for us. So we had to take what you understood, especially during COVID, of how to sell a house. And that was the drone videos and the marketing and how it shifted. So talk about how your actual business model shifted in this last year.
Yeah, so I was fortunate that I had already had a pretty good setup as far as being able to do things remotely, right?
Mhm.
So I was already embracing technology, and thankfully my previous team had taught me that, because it's not something that I do naturally, but that really served me well, in this last season, and being able to quickly. I mean, there were agents out there that are like, wait, what? I can't go to the office and use the fax machine? Like, I don't know how I'm going to sell another home. But
I'm hoping the fax machine didn't make it through the pandemic.
right? Yes.
People still fax offers.
Isn't that amazing? Yes, they do. So I was able to really transition quite easily. And it was funny. I remember there being like a moment of like, oh, how are we going to sell homes if you can't enter someone's home? And there was about a 3-week period where it just felt quiet.
Mhm.
And I remember just telling myself, like, Dawn, just enjoy the quiet. Like, just enjoy this moment. You know that it's going to change and it's going to shift. It has to. People still need homes. Like, nothing changed there. So about 3 weeks in, it was like, okay, here we go. Everyone kind of regrouped, and whoever it is that was telling people how to handle things, they came up with all their rules. And it was like, all right, here's a new set of rules to this game. And we were off and running. So my company was great about having like morning huddles, like via Zoom, and really just getting that information out there.
Mhm.
So I just kept doing it. I just kept going forward. And it's like, okay, so now this is how we enter homes. We wear masks and we fill out a form in advance and we do these things, and we just did it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it was a great year. It was my best year ever last year.
How many homes last year?
Last year it was 24 homes. But it's amazing how, like, in that time as well, I was able to grow my team. I was able to
Mhm.
bring on, another agent to help me on, some of my buyer sides, and really just, I think because we had so much downtime, or so much time that we weren't commuting, or we weren't,
Mhm.
doing the kid activities, I think it allowed us time to really like look at our business and figure out, like, what do I need to implement here
Mhm.
to continue to grow once this pandemic passes.
Mhm.
And I think that happened for me. It
Yeah.
was great.
And that's a good perspective to think about. Last year was your biggest year ever of 24 homes. And you've exceeded that this year in 6 months.
Yes, and that was because we had big plans this year.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you were talking about having a mentor, and a couple years ago, I had signed up for coaching. So I do coaching through Tony Robbins, and I can say that like having a coach is like such a game changer. As far as just having somebody there to guide you, not just like in your business life, but in your life in general. And so that's really been something that I've really utilized over the past year to kind of go, okay, like I'm frustrated. This is happening. Like, how do I navigate this? And how do I get to the next point in life? And so one of the things that she said was, okay, Dawn, so you guys are thinking about making a big move. And what's stressing you out about that? And it's like, how am I going to transition my business? How am I going to do business this year to where that I can take that time to move my family, build a new business, and not freak out financially?
Right.
So my game plan was I'm going to do all the sales that I did last year in the first 6 months of this year. And
Check that box.
boom.
I set out to do that. And I actually, by the end of April, I had already achieved that goal.
So awesome.
So it was really amazing. And that was just yet another sign from God saying, yes,
Right.
I'm confirming that you guys are supposed to be doing this big change in your life.
So let me ask you this. At the end of April, does that mean that our transaction was the one that got you over the top? Just saying.
I mean, it did. Yeah, it did. I mean,
Were we number 25?
And you guys were 2 sales. So
I know, that's
Right.
true.
yes. Absolutely. No, it was pretty amazing how we were blessed this year.
That's so cool. I love that story. And so we've alluded to it, but Dawn had big dreams. And so right as we started this process of looking for our home, all of a sudden my real estate agent is MIA on a plane to Idaho for a vacation. And I'm like, what do you mean you're leaving me? Like this is full service availability for my like needs for 30 days in my head. And she was, but she doesn't need to like be
It was
with
yet
me in my
another
home.
way of showing that I could work remotely.
I can
Yeah.
work remotely. So she's like, I'm in Idaho. We're just gonna go on a little, adventure again and see for a retirement home is how she would put it. And the next thing you know, it's like, so I put an offer on a home, and you tell your story because it's awesome.
Yeah. So we did a lot of traveling last year trying to figure out, if we were to ever leave our little town in San Diego,
Heaven forbid we leave.
where would we go? Because after all, our parents picked where we live.
Yes.
And we just stayed there.
Yes.
So like yourself, I was at that point where I was trying to decide, is there somewhere else that we should be or could be? And so we set out, spent the year traveling across the United States, looked at the states that we were interested in, and we just kept coming back to Idaho. And it just checked so many boxes for us, and it just felt like home. Like they say, Idaho. It sure is. It is. So
it's not just a shirt.
Yes, it's not just a shirt. And so Idaho's set out where there's, southern Idaho and northern Idaho, and they're very different from one another. And I really love the beauty of northern Idaho. So we decided to take spring break and go on this trip and spend 4 days in southern Idaho and 4 days in northern. I think we were putting your deal together when I was up in Coeur d'Alene.
Mm-hmm.
And so luckily I had the serenity of the lakes and the mountains and all the trees while I was navigating our way through that.
Yes.
And so we ended up, before we even got to northern Idaho, we had breakfast with my cousin that morning. And he said, you should go check out this village in Meridian. And I was like, oh, the village. I thought it was like houses. And we get there and it's a mall. And I'm like, oh, okay, a mall. Cool. Yeah, it was really pretty. Outdoor mall. Probably one of the prettiest I've ever seen. And I pull up Zillow like a good realtor I am. And I see this house and I'm like, oh, this looks cool. Let's drive past it. It's just across the street. So we go over there and we pull up. And I literally text my cousin and I said, we found our home. And I was
From the
probably like
outside.
halfway joking, but
Oh.
yet I kind of just knew like this is like a really cool home. So he said, great, I'll be there in 10 minutes. So he comes over, we look at the house. We all just like fell in love. I had my best friend and her family there, and we walked through that place and it was like, yes, it's original from 1976, which was an awesome year. And and now
You now know
and
Dawn's age.
Yes. And so now we're going to be renovating this home, and it's absolutely perfect. So with that, we were like, okay, well, it went from, yes, we're going to buy a second home, have it as an investment, maybe an Airbnb.
Yes.
It went from that to, okay, no, let's move our family here because we really love the feel of the lifestyle and everything. And so we're doing that right now. We're closed on our home and
Literally.
moved out yesterday.
How long did it take from purchase to you and Brian saying, we're moving? Like, we're moving. Tatum, the other kids are off in college. Like, we're going.
It was pretty quick. I mean, as soon as we decided that was the house, it was like, no, this isn't just like a for right now home. This is like a long-term one. So we decided to make the jump, and Brian, we went back up there. He had a couple job interviews, got hired, and everything just fell in place. And it's exactly what I tell my clients.
Yeah.
You know, you just, in life, you just got to keep going forward. And, you know, as long as the doors don't close, then it's just another confirmation that you should continue going forward. And so just like a lot of other dreams that we've followed, this is one of them. And we're just really excited to see like what the future brings and what God has in store for us. And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think that goes along with what we talk about a lot, which is dreaming big. And you actually have to step into the dream. It's not necessarily going to come to you. You have to spend the time. You have to take those steps that don't necessarily feel comfortable. You don't know what's necessarily going to happen, but you have a confidence that you're doing the right thing, and you step into it, and it is. I mean, you look back and know clearly that it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and it's funny how when you do that, like the slightest little change in the way that you pursue something can change your trajectory for your life and for your family's life. So that's always been something that I kind of keep in mind when we do make these decisions. It's like, how is this going to affect us, you know, in the future? And as long as it's positive, I mean, just go for it.
Yeah. It took you a long time. I mean, how long have you and Brian been married now?
I think 12 years, but you'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He may say 13 or 25, but you know.
Yeah, I think it's been 12 years now. And and so it's been, you know, coming together as a couple and kind of like dreaming together is different than dreaming on your own, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really nurture that and sit down and have those conversations and figure out, like, are we both going after the same thing, and how does this serve our family? And so that's been fun. Like, we're both dreamers. I always say I can't imagine if we weren't, you know, it would just be so boring.
Yeah, and I asked that because we have very similar stories, right, of blending families and dreaming together, but sitting and planning and preparation and that season of waiting and trusting that God has a plan that's perfect for us, and knowing when it's time to step into it, right? And I think you brought it up on the last one of just waiting on God, and you said, well, maybe God's waiting on you. And I feel like that happened for both of us almost at the same time, right? It was like we knew we had these gentle nudges for a while of it's time to change. I'm opening doors for you. Like, let's go, right? And we were like, not time yet, you know? And then as soon as we finally said we're stepping into it, we both had 2 new homes. And I got to tell you, it's so frustrating when your realtor says, I already closed on my house and I got keys. And I'm like, what? Like 45 more days of torture.
Yeah, you guys had a very long one. I mean, I don't know, but maybe God was trying to teach someone patience.
Gosh, I don't know who, David. Patience is not my
you guys,
virtue.
you did well, though. You guys did well. I mean, you had to sit there and go through it, and it gave you more time to plan and prepare, right?
That's right. And bring all the contractors by.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think that the amount of time was good for us because running the business and everything else and kids in school, that 30 days would have been way too soon to pull it all together. So 60 days was fine. It was just the coordination at the end that was difficult. But besides that, I think the timing, the 60 days, was the right time for us.
It was. And let's keep in mind, you guys had a lot of other things going on in life, like big life events.
Yeah. There was just a few things happening over the last few months. And it worked out perfectly because we had all of this moving material that needed to go somewhere. And what do you do with 800 boxes and tissue? Well, Dawn's moving. Here you go, Dawn.
And let me tell you, we did not use all your boxes. We actually had quite a few left over. So kudos for me for purging for months on end.
Good
but
for
I
you.
was able to bless the people across the street from me who are currently getting ready to move.
Perfect.
So I said, come get these boxes. And they were very happy too.
It's amazing how much junk you acquire and that purge. I mean, I think we just need to sit on that, like purge your house. And
Purge your house.
we said one day we'll be minimalist because we'll just be tired of stuff, right?
Well, and I kind of had started to consider myself a minimalist until I went to move. And like I said yesterday, when it was like that final like 2 hours, and you're just looking at this stuff going, why do I even have this? I didn't even think about this, as we were preparing for our move.
Yeah.
So my advice to anybody out there listening who's thinking about moving is, even if it's going to be a year from now, start now and really just go through and assess. I look at things as the more things you have, the more things you have to manage. Mm-hmm. And do you want to be managing things, or do you want to be enjoying life? And so I think when you can start looking at things a little bit differently and purging your house, it will make it a lot easier when that time comes.
Yeah, there was so many things between, the workshop and the sheds with all the, kids stuff, sports and whatever, that I'm like, well, we're going to need that. We're going to need that. And it's still sitting there, and it's like, I should have got rid of that before. So there's still going to be some additional purging happening because we don't need it.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And you always have these conversations, in your head or with family privately of who would have storage containers, right? Why would you invest in storage containers for years and years and years of just stuff you're never going to do? And now that we put our whole life into a storage container on our property, it's like, this is so much. Why did I bring the blender that's been sitting behind a cabinet for 10 years that I didn't use then because I have 2 more now, but right. You bring it because you think you're going to need it. And
yeah,
you do. But maybe when you're unpacking, you can start to look at those things again and say, would I ever want to have to move this item with me? Should I ever move again? I don't know. And for you guys had not only your things, but your parents' stuff from so many years of living there. So I don't even know how you did it. I mean, I didn't have nearly as much to contend with as you did. You guys are amazing.
We filled a lot of dumpsters. But yes, you end up with these family heirlooms and, old banjos and things like we're not going to put that on our wall, but you feel like you can't get rid of it. And I think that is part of the process of growth, of realizing that what am I carrying along with me for someone else, and I think that's what we went through a lot of things that my parents didn't know what to do with because they didn't want to carry it anymore, and to just pass it to your kids seems logical, but your kids don't want a grandfather clock.
They don't.
What are we going to do with that, right? And I'm going to pass that to Taylor. He's going to be like, thanks. Like, now I got to deal with this, right?
Right.
So there's this generational line that I think we're going to have to start to ease into to say, does this really matter to you? And if it did, then I'll save it for you. But why did it matter to you? Because I need it to matter to me. And an old broken clock is not going to matter to me, right?
Right. I mean, they could be family heirlooms from years and years ago, and that's great. But at some point, if you're just storing it, I don't know. It's not like, in 15 years, our kids are going to open a box and see something and be like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to display it in my house. It's just not a chance.
No, it's going to stay in the box.
Right, it's going to stay in the box.
Especially 3 boys.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything with.
Yeah, and photo albums and all those things. It's like, it's tough because, 20 years ago, that's what you did, photo albums, even 10 years ago. And now it's on your iPhone, all 15,000 photos you have on your iPhone.
You just hope you have enough memory to store it all.
Right.
You don't lose your phone. So let's shift a little because I like that you have bold faith and you're not afraid to bring your faith everywhere with you, whether that's the workplace, with family, with friends. And you were doing some social media stories about faith in real estate. And it really caught me because I thought that's why I appreciate you, because we are bolder in our faith in running a business and we're not afraid to put scripture on our marketing, and that's just who we are. And you're very similar in that this is a passion, but it's also a purpose to help people get to on their journey of life. So talk about how that was for you to incorporate into real estate.
Well, there again, I think when you create your own business, that is an opportunity that you have, right? You get to really be you, and you get to do it, your way and the way that you feel led to do it. So for me, I just would have these experiences with buyers and sellers, and it would just come back in my own mind that, wow, this is God working right now and helping these people, achieve these goals that they have and make a better life for their family. And, sometimes there's just these little things that happen during an escrow or like yours, where just things come together so seamlessly, and these doors are opening, and you just think to yourself, like, this is God working. So I think for me, like when I went out on my own, I said, yeah, I want to tell these stories. To me, it's not just another sale. Like sometimes you'll see realtors like, oh, here's another sale, here's another one.
Here's my picture.
And it's like, no, it's not about me. Like, this isn't me. I'm just like the hands that do the work, right? But this is God actually showing up and being there for people. And so I want to tell that story. So whenever I feel like there's something there in a transaction that God was doing his work, I just want to share that. So that's kind of where I started doing these little like story blogs with each of my sales, and helping people realize that there's so much more behind it. And it's people, it's God. I mean, it's just so many things working for you.
And I think that's interesting because it's your ministry.
It is.
When it comes down to it, it's your stewardship, it's your ministry, it's what God has called you to do. A lot of people think that, you have to work for a church to be in ministry or volunteer at a church to be in ministry. But for us that are business owners, this is our ministry. We are representing God in what we do out in the business world. And a lot of people just don't understand that because they haven't been through that. If you're not serving in a church, well, you're not in ministry. Well, no, we are the church. And this is the ministry that God has given us. So I think that's beautiful.
It is. And I don't know if I told you guys this, but I've told other people who have faith that it's so much easier for me when I work with people who trust that the Lord is going to make it happen, right? And you trust that if it's not meant to be, that the door is going to close and something else will come up. And so when I have those moments where I'm working with somebody who doesn't have that faith, I find that it's an opportunity for me to really like share my own faith and just let them know like, hey, this is where I feel God is sending us, or the message that we're getting, and being able to share that with them confidently, and maybe it helps them, kind of see things a little bit differently, or maybe stop for a second and, maybe they pray about what they have going on versus feeling like it's all on them.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and it's a great point because servant leadership is what we talk about a lot, and that's what you're doing. You are serving while you are leading them through this process, and it's not always a happy ending. So you do have to really listen to understand and have the courage to walk them through why that door is closing and say, I'm going to be here for you when you're ready again. This isn't a final chapter for you. This is a no for now, right?
Yes.
And that's hard for people, even if you have faith, to have the doors closing. And I know when we were in the middle of ours and it seemed perfect, and then we put this offer in that seemed ridiculously high over ask, and how could it fail, and putting our house on the market. And there was this moment where Dawn said, well, you might end up in your camping trailer for a month or two at the lakes. And I was like, yeah, right. And then it became a reality that our home had 30 showings, and we got a no on our first offer on what we really were trying to get. And we didn't think it was even possible to get to the price that they were going to ask. And that patience and you leading us through, like, we have 2 days to sit and be still. And it was like, we were not still. We were so anxious.
Yeah.
Our nerves were going wild. We were walking and talking to God around the lake as we were just like, I don't know, Lord, we're going to lose our home, and we don't have a home. And there's no other homes even available, right? Like that was the scariest part of, it's not like we had other options. It was like, this was kind of it.
No. And when I told you guys, you're going to have to just take a leap. You're going to have to put your house on the market. I know you don't have your offer accepted yet, but in this crazy market, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
People don't want to take a contingent sale for a home that's not currently on the market.
Yeah.
So you guys said, okay, all right, we trust you. And you put your house on the market, and like, it's so hard, for me to say, hey, this is how it should go. And then I just have to pray that it goes that way for you.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that it did.
I'd be coming to Idaho with you.
You might have been.
So what does Idaho look like? Your home is now on a truck driving up there, and you have a week. What do you have? Like, how does the next 6 months, what's that picture? How do you describe that?
Yeah. So there again, through coaching, like I've learned to be patient, and I've learned to be okay with downtime, and knowing that sometimes because we're so just go, 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 right? Like people that work like with our intensity, like we have a really hard time just saying, okay, all right, right now God needs me to do this. And for me right now, it's going to be getting my family settled in. We have a 10-year-old. I've got to get him, involved in sports and making friends. And as I mentioned, I've got this house that we're renovating. And so when we move up there next week, it's going to not have floors or paint or ceilings, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be working on that. And then what my plan is to start building those relationships, because I really enjoy that my real estate business here in San Diego has been built on relationships. And I pray that, I'll still continue to be blessed with business here in San Diego. I think I've set it up pretty well where I can continue to serve people here. It's only a 2-hour flight, so it's super easy. I can be back and forth, still have my mom and brother and Brian's family here. So we definitely want to be here in San Diego as much as possible anyways. So yeah, we're just going to be doing that. And then come September, it's go time. So I've got some big goals for next year. And, I met with somebody up there and they kind of had made a mention that, well, you don't currently have a real estate business here. And I was like, well, just wait.
Right.
Is that a challenge? 'Cause
I
love
think
one.
that sounds like a challenge. So I will definitely, with the same intensity that I went after it here when I first started, it'll be the same there. And so I hope to be able to have, 2 businesses, Boise and San Diego. I mean, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that are transitioning and making moves, from San Diego to other states. And if anyone's coming to Boise, I'd love the opportunity to help them, find that dream home. And if they need to sell here and buy there, you guys know I can do both.
I think you need to also have one in Texas, so that you will have the California market covered.
And Tennessee.
And Tennessee,
Right?
don't
And
forget Tennessee.
What a strategy, Dawn.
That is,
Did
yes.
you foresee this was going to be your life a year ago?
I think I did. I think it was probably about a year ago that we really had made that decision that, okay, we were meant to be somewhere else. And as hard as that's going to be, leaving our life here and moving on, like I think we can have both. I really do. I do.
Yeah, I think you can too. Well, we are so excited to watch you on this journey. And I like that you're filming the renovations on social media. And I feel like that's going to be a part of the door opening. And we'll send some links out with this, because Dawn has the most incredible Joanna Gaines garden in her yard, and it is green. And if you live in California, when you see green like Dawn just bought, it's like, oh,
it makes your
I just
eyes
want
so
a part.
happy.
Yeah, I just like, she's just showing that, like, you had dahlias or peonies or something. I was like, oh, real plants.
Yes, the kind you buy at Trader Joe's, but they're growing in my yard.
Yes.
Nice.
I'll just have a delivery service from your yard to my
There
yard.
you go. Or when I
just
make
need
that
so
flight
much
back,
help.
I'll bring you some beautiful peonies.
I love
Perfect.
it. Well, thanks, Dawn, for everything you did for us. I mean, our family is going to be a whole new version of what we were because of what you did for us to help us get to where we are now. So can't thank you enough for that. And I look forward to the friendship continuing for years to come to see where your journey leads you next. And then if you'll get the Hawaii real estate license, because that will be our next
Game
home.
on.
There you go. That could be fun. I
That
think we
will
could have
be
a
a
lot of
good
fun
one.
with that. Yeah, I absolutely appreciate all of that you've done for me over my life. And so I feel very blessed to have people like you in my life.